Today, what I'm going to take you through is a few different things that I've learned along the way about value propositions, how to put them together, how to refine them, and how to build products that deliver true value to customers. The outcome that I would like to get us to today is to show you the power of the value prop canvas, which is a tool that I discovered quite late on in my career as a chief product officer, and how useful that is in trying to come up with value props. I'd like to take little steps to boost your confidence to do customer interviews, particularly for the product managers here. I know that everyone, generally product managers, feel they should be doing more customer interviews, but something is stopping them doing those customer interviews. It can be confidence, it can be permission from the founders, it can be company culture, but the more time spent with customers, the better, right? So I'd like to inspire you to talk to even more customers. So in the QR code bingo that we're playing, I need a little bit of help, and I do need you to open another QR code, and I promise this is the last QR code. We're going to do other things today. If you could just open this QR code, as I'm doing, this is going to take you to a feedback type form. I am clearly a product person at heart, and I love getting feedback. So I'd really love you after this talk to go through and leave me a bit of feedback. We have, I don't know how many people there are here, 25 people attending. I don't know what you guys consider a valid sample size for your customer feedback, but I would love to get 80% sample size. So I need virtually everybody to commit to doing this for me. Leave me some feedback, particularly if you weren't impressed, and particularly if you churn out. If my retention rates are bad and you drop off, please leave me some feedback and tell me why. Okay, you know how valuable the feedback is, so please do that one for me. Okay, so to give a very quick introduction to myself. So I'm Nick, I'm a tech founder, chief product officer, and a board member. I founded a company called CloudMade about 15 years ago that built this type of product. We built a personalized, highly usable infotainment system for cars, which we have, over the course of the years, sold into a bunch of different car makers, from BMW to Ford to Renault Nissan to Toyota. And this is me demoing our product at CES a few years ago. Today, I am taking a break for a few years of being a hands-on founder, and I'm really enjoying working with a range of different startups, such as these ones here, plus accelerators and VCs, really helping coach founders and product teams through the various stages of product management to help them achieve the impossible. Broadly, those stages involve starting at the beginning, understanding the customer, validation of problems, validation of solution, so the point we get to problem solution fit, building a product strategy, and then delivering the MVP through product market fit, through growth, through scaling. So those are the areas that I'm typically involved with, and these are some of the awesome people that I get to work with every day. So what I'm going to do now, and by the way, this is going to be a highly interactive session, so we've got some kind of pen, paper, iPad thing that you can brainstorm on. What I'm going to do now is take us through a few foundations about value propositions. So CloudMade, the company that I founded, everything was going pretty well until we got to about 20, 25 people, where it was a very founder-driven culture, founder-driven company, with a small team, a small group of people who were connected to the founders and really drove things. As we started to scale beyond 25 people, everything started to go wrong. And we found we had lots of meetings, we had lots of confusion, our velocity dropped, and our ability, quite honestly, to deliver products that customers liked plummeted. And I had to do, as the chief product officer, founder, I had to do a lot of soul searching to work out why was this. There were some non-obvious reasons, and there were some reasons that should have been very obvious. One of which was that we lacked a common lexicon, a common dictionary for terms. So when I was talking about value proposition as a founder and saying, guys, like the customers, they're not getting the value proposition, the development teams had a completely different idea of what value proposition was to me. What I found was when I defined these 10 or so terms for my team and worked with the team to get to a definition that everybody agreed on and everybody liked, that act alone helped things go a lot faster. So I'm going to share 3 of the key definitions with you today before we get on and do a little bit of work. What is a value proposition? So my definition that I found useful at CloudMade and with the companies that I advise today A value prop is how an organization creates values for its customers. It isn't the actual product, but rather it's the combination of the customer problems that are solved and the value created. And really importantly, a value proposition exists only in relation to one customer segment. We're going to come on and define customer segment in a sec. So this gets really interesting. And this means, for example, if you are a multi-sided marketplace, you have one value proposition out to your buyers, one to your sellers. If you have different types of buyers and sellers, people selling big things, people selling small things, you have those different customer segments, they may require a different value proposition. And your customer discovery work that's done needs to consciously address those different segments. Your metrics that you put together, your North Star metrics, your OKRs, how you run your business and think about it, needs to consciously think about the fact that the value proposition is likely to be different for different customer segments. If you're in the B2B world, where you sometimes have quite complex selling processes, where you have to first talk to a gatekeeper of a company, they put you through to a decision maker. You might have an economic buyer. You might have to talk to a purchasing department. And often in B2B sales, you have a difference between the buyer and the user. You know, where Slack do this very cleverly, where they sell to the user and the buyer just has to pay for it, right? I mean, no one, or certainly at CloudMade, we ended up using Slack and Dropbox with no one making a conscious decision. And the next minute you're paying them 20 grand a year. Often you have to be quite conscious of the value proposition for the buyer, the payer, the decision maker, and the end user in a B2B sale. All of that requires separate channels of customer discovery, separate channels of customer intelligence, and a very deliberate effort. At CloudMade, we had a lot of problems with our deals not progressing down the pipeline. And a big aha moment for us was when we figured out it was because we'd obsessed about the end user value proposition. Those nice pictures I showed you at the beginning, let's build an awesome car interface that works really well. We had all this great data to show that end users loved it. But the economic buyers at BMW, they don't actually care that much about what people love. They care about how much is it going to cost? What is the memory footprint it's going to take? Do we need to buy more expensive silicon? So that's quite an extreme example that I hope frames the importance of thinking of a different value proposition for each different segment. So starting off with the value props, guess the value proposition. Which company, which well-known company whose product you've almost definitely used in the last couple of years. Our ride-hailing service helps anyone who wants to travel from A to B by making taxis instantly available whilst eliminating the need to carry cash. Guess the company. You can chat or unmute for this one. Open the chat window. I'm slow. Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to guess? Type it in the chat window. Shout out. Zoom. Uber. Yeah. Okay. We got there. Awesome. So, business model. The business model is different to the value proposition. The business model is the rationale, the set of reasons, the logic, the thinking for how an organization creates, captures, and delivers value. So the business model, there's a business model canvas. There's a lean canvas that some of you might be using as well. And the lean canvases and the business model canvases look at how does a value proposition, the way we create value for the customer, the problems we solve and the solutions that we offer, how does that fit into the bigger picture of how we create and capture and deliver that value? So I think of a value proposition sitting inside a business model. We have different canvases and approaches for both of them. To me, the value proposition always comes first. Yeah, there are some good companies that have been made by innovating only on business model. I'm personally more interested in innovating first at the value proposition level and then figuring out an awesome business model. So Uber's, I won't make you go through the pain of guessing again. Uber's business model is matching riders who want to go from A to B. So that's like the rationale of the whole thing. And matching riders with drivers and charging a commission on the total fee. So a nice simple summary of what their business model looks like. Next up is customer segment. So a customer segment is the group of people, users, or organizations for whom we create value. And they don't need to be fee paying. This is another thing that we got quite stuck on at CloudMade. We engaged with a lot of people. It was like, are they a channel? Are they a customer? Are they, what are they? I find it very simple to say, look, a customer is anyone for whom we create value. So if the purchasing person that you talk to, we create value for them, cool, let's consider them a customer. If you are a freemium app where you have one set of users who are generating value somehow and you bill another set of users, yeah, then they're customers as well. Am I a customer of Google? Yes. I'm using Google Docs, I'm using Gmail. They are thinking of me as a customer. Yes, I'm not paying for it, but I'm creating a lot of value. So customers, yeah, do not need to be fee paying. So these customer segments, you could have one customer segment, you could have a lot of customer segments. The point at which you get product market fit is when within one or more customer segments, you have a solution to their problems. So it's a value proposition that aligns with the needs, the problems of one or more customer segments. Of course, many of us in tech, when we're trying to get product market fit, our intuition is to build more stuff. One of the reasons that actually taking away features often can lead to getting product market fit is because it allows you to focus in on only one segment of users. So customer segments are a really powerful concept to work with. Customer segments, by the way, this is not demographics. So this isn't the age of people. It's not psychographics. It isn't the same as a cohort you might have within Mixpanel or Amplitude. You know, it's not, a customer segment is not people we put through an A/B test, A and B. A and B aren't a different customer segment, they're different cohorts. A customer segment is created by clustering around the jobs that the customer needs to get done. And I'm going to come on to jobs to be done next. So shout out here, type in chat, whatever you feel like. Which customer segments does Uber serve and which do they not serve? So type it in chat. So what do we, using everything we know about customer segments, who does Uber serve? Who do they not serve? What do we got? So drivers, riders, drivers, individuals without a car, transport within a city, cheaply, customers, smartphones. Yeah. Which segments does Uber not serve very well? Non-tech savvy, yeah. Are there any parents on the call? It can be difficult using Uber when you're trying to get a pushchair, a pram into the car. If you have a disability and you're trying to get a wheelchair into the car, that's pretty difficult. Dog owners, yeah. So there's some conscious decisions that Uber have made on which segments to address and which don't. One way to compete against something like Uber, yeah, Uber Exec, one way to compete against it is to offer a competing service. So a number of people have tried to do this in mobility services with children's transportation, right, of offering shuttle services that will pick up kids and drop them off at school and have quite stringent safety measures and some better background checks for the drivers and GPS tracking of the kids and all this kind of thing. Cool. So we got the idea of customer segments. So what I'm going to show you now is how to put these two concepts, value proposition and customer segment, how they fit into a value proposition canvas and how to work with that. So this is your value proposition canvas. I imagine it's probably familiar to many of you. It is, I'm just moving my screen. So the value proposition canvas has two components, the circle, which is the customer profile, we call the customer profiles, and the square, which is the value map. We're going to focus mainly today on the customer profile. The customer profile is what gives us understanding of our customers. So there are three boxes on the customer profile. The first is jobs to be done. And jobs to be done are the things customers are trying to get done. There are three major categories. Functional jobs, I'm trying to get from A to B. Social jobs, I'm trying to visit friends. I'm trying to chat with somebody along the way. I want to go out and meet people. And emotional jobs, I want to be excited or I want to feel safe. I want to feel that the driver has my best intentions at heart. So three different categories of jobs to be done: functional, social, and emotional. So again, jump into the chat. What jobs does an Uber rider have to get done? And I have helped by copying and pasting some of their marketing material. So what are the functional, social, and emotional jobs of an Uber rider? Sorry, I said driver, I meant rider. Yeah, sorry, Lisa. So we're just, if anyone's not in the Zoom chat, that's where we're chatting here as a Zoom chat. Traveling from A to B, yeah. Feeling safe, no cash. Yeah, cool. Going to meet friends, quick riding, yeah. Yeah, not roaming the streets at night. Great. So these are all the jobs. And the nice thing with jobs are they cover the functional, this is what we need to get done, all the way up to the more emotional needs that people have. So it's quite a broad canvas it gives you. So what I'm going to do now is invite you all to take 5 minutes to do a quick heads down brainstorm of your own. So picking the customer segment that you know best from your business, just take 5 minutes to fill out the jobs. And you can just write this on a bit of paper, right? You could draw a circle if you want, but you can just write jobs. So we're trying to brainstorm here the functional, social, and emotional things that the customer is trying to get done. I'm going to put a timer on for 5 minutes, and I will give you a shout when we're done. You can just obviously hang in this Zoom room and shout if there are, or ping me on the chat if there are any questions about what we're doing. Okay, let's stop there. So how did that go? Feel free to unmute and just shout a few words out. How did that go for you? Anything from disaster to fantastic works. Social is hard. Yeah. What else? Did anybody find it easier than expected?
I've done this before, so it felt a lot more natural, but it definitely expanded the way I was thinking about the end user. I was only focused on functional, but I never really expanded on social and emotional. So this was interesting to get into that user's mindset.
Yeah, cool. Did you manage
I've also done them
to social and emotionals? Oh, okay, Lisa, yeah. Right to the benefits rather than jobs. Yeah. So that's quite a common thing to happen. One of the things also that can get a bit confusing with jobs is we're not trying to figure out the jobs the customer has to do with our app. We're trying to figure out what are the underlying jobs that the customer has. So like Alicia, for example, people are trying to get work done. They're trying to get away from home. They're trying to focus, things like that. In Uber, we're trying to get from A to B. We then put this app or products in front of people, which adds an additional layer of complication, which hopefully helps you get the job done better. So we're trying to get to the bottom of what are the things the user's trying to get done in their life already. Okay, awesome. So we're going to move on now to pains. So pains, these are the things that annoy users, customers, prevent them getting their job done or reduce the output of the jobs they're doing. 3 major types: undesired outcomes, obstacles, and risks. So if my job as an Uber customer is to get from A to B, the undesired outcome could be getting lost, being late, paying more than I thought that I was going to pay. The obstacle of getting from A to B in the city could be not having a bus near me, having to pay congestion charge for my car, having to pay a high price for a black cab, not being able to find a black cab. So these are things stopping me getting my primary job done and from go to A to B. We're not primarily trying to find out the obstacles of using the Uber app. That's a sort of separate exercise. We're trying to get to the value proposition we're creating for the user. Then there are risks as well. So the risk of going from A to B in a city is crime, getting lost, being late, getting wet, ruining my shoes, all sorts of different risks for different customer segments. So often, one of the things I really found really difficult in product, I was always been into doing user interviews and always, always tried to lead by talking to the customer. I always found it super hard to tell the difference between the petty annoyances, the things that people are complaining about, and the things that actually matter to users. So for example, people complain about the rain all of the time. People complain about not being able to get something done. Just the other day, I was trying to get all my Slack accounts to use the same email address, and it was a total nightmare. And I was thinking, like, why? I mean, Slack, they're an amazing product and company. Why haven't they fixed this? And the reason is because they know that that pain doesn't stop me engaging with the job I'm trying to get done with Slack, right? So a way to get clarity in product decisions is to look for the pains, the things users are complaining about. Is that actually stopping them getting a job done? Is that something which is creating an undesired outcome, an obstacle, or a risk in their life already, or not? And if it isn't, maybe the customer can deal with a little bit of friction. Maybe that's something they're just complaining about and they're never going to pay for. So we're going to do another 5-minute sprint now on pains. So these are the things that annoy your customers or prevent them getting their job done, the underlying job they're trying to get done, or reduce the output of that job. So we're looking for the undesired outcomes, the things we don't want to happen when we do the job, the obstacles, the things that stop us getting that job done, and the risks, the things that can go wrong when we do the job. Okay, so again, drop any messages into the chat if you have any questions. Oh, one more thing before we start that. What pains, just to warm us up, what are the pains that an Uber rider has? So what are the things that annoy an Uber rider getting their job done? Drop it into the chat window or shout it out. Not having enough cash, yeah, not finding a ride at the odd hour, yeah. Drivers coming slowly. Yeah, Barris definitely could be. But yeah, I guess you could say a mini cab, the alternative to Uber arriving too slowly, not being able to find a taxi. Risk of driving, yeah, cool. So we're on top of it. Awesome. Okay, now I think I really do hand over to you. So sprint 2, circle brainstorm. We're looking now for pains. So what are the things that prevent your customers getting their jobs done? I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. I'm just going to go back one slide here so that you can see the definition. The undesired outcomes, obstacles, and risks. Cool. Have a go for yourself. Barris, it is, don't worry too much about the articulation, though. Just try and get down anything that's, and anything out of your head to begin with. Treat it as a brainstorm. Okay, going to do about 10 more seconds to get your final pains down. Awesome. Okay, so how did that go? Anyone have any reflections, comments, thoughts on the pains exercise? Speak, you can unmute and chat, or you can drop a note into the text chat, Zoom chat.
I found that those pains were more social and emotional versus functional for the customer segment that I'm working with. So that was quite interesting. It wasn't more about the tools or technique. It was more about how do I convince the business, or how do I get everyone on board, which was quite interesting to just put down on paper.
Okay, interesting. Anything else? Anyone got any other reflections? Did anyone come up with a new pain, like something completely new that you hadn't thought of until today?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to share it, but yeah, that was a real aha moment.
Cool. Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to gains. So gains are similar to pains, but gains describe the outcome and benefit that the customers want. So I think of it as the reason they're doing the job. It's how they measure success. So in a customer interview, a great question to access gains are, how do you measure success? How do you know when you're successful? What does a good ride in an Uber look like for you? So there are 4 major types of gains. Required gains, like you have to arrive at your destination. Expected, you sort of expect to get there in a timely manner. Desired, it's nice if the car smells nice. And unexpected, you could have an amazing chat with the driver and make this connection that you didn't expect to get. Or you could get somewhere early. So gains are describing the outcome and benefits that the customers are looking for. Let's do a quick exercise here. So what gains does an Uber rider have? So what are the outcomes and benefits that someone's looking for when they're going from A to B in a city? Shout or type. Let's just get warmed up. Not needing to park. Yeah. Is it, Barris, is there like a gain one level above that? Like, what is the benefit someone gets from not being able to park, not needing to park?
Flexibility.
Flexibility, yeah. You can fit in more meetings in a day. You can spend less money. So Linda, getting where you need to go to without having to drive yourself, being able to drink alcohol, yeah. Relaxing, saving time, privacy, hassle-free travel, yeah, awesome. Okay. So let's do another brainstorm, a quick 5 minutes for this one on gains. I'm going to hand over to you guys. So take 5 minutes to add gains to your list. So these are, I'll come back to here. These are the outcomes and benefits that the customers are wanting. And we're looking for required. It's got to be there. Expected, desired, and unexpected. Cool. Let's do a quick brainstorm. Okay, let's wrap it there. How was that? Did anyone come up with any interesting gains? Someone said here, Fiona, so gains can order a cab from anywhere. Cool. Oh, that was on the Uber. Yeah, anyone come up with some interesting gains for your value propositions? Everyone's been busy writing, so I know you've got some good gains there. Someone shout one out.
Nick, could you explain again the difference between the 4 different types?
Yeah, definitely. So like the required gain, if you look at the gains are the outcomes and benefits that we want. So if we take it back to Uber, I want to get from A to B. That's like the primary job as an Uber customer I have to get done. The way that I measure the success of that, I think about the success of going from A to B, is a required, which would be, for example, I have to get to B. If I do not get from A to B, that's total failure. An expected, it's something that I really need it to happen. I need to get there safely. I need the driver to be polite. I need the payment to work. I need the driver not to get lost. So that's like your base level. There's then desired, like what would it be good? I quite like it to happen. When I use this app, I'd like it if I get there really quickly, and I'd like it if the driver takes some shortcuts. And then unexpected. So these are things that your user may not know because it's unexpected, but things that blow them away. The real wow factor that comes out of things, where you're using a product and you're like, whoa, I did not know it would do that. And things get really interesting with Uber, right? I mean, back when I started using Uber for business travel, I discovered this thing of I could do more meetings in a day. And I never really considered that. I was like, well, yeah, I'll use Uber because, why not? It seems easier. Then I discovered, wow, when I don't have to mess around at the airport terminal, and when I arrive at the airport, I don't have to get the train, I don't have to queue. I suddenly have so much more time. That was an unexpected gain of using Uber, was more time in my day. So these are the things that really delight. Okay, so this is what it can look like when it is all put together. So this is an example value prop which I put together for Uber. If you click on this QR code, that takes you to this canvas. There's also a video on YouTube of me putting all of this together. So you can see, and I try and narrate my thinking process of in about 45 minutes, how I go from a blank canvas to having all of this here. And we're starting from our jobs. Once you've got the jobs, you stack rank them in what you think is the most critical to the least critical. You use your intuition, your gut feel, your knowledge of the customer, your knowledge of the industry to stack rank them. Obviously, the more data-driven, the better. But if you don't have data, that's cool. Just use your intuition. One of the first things you're doing when you go out and talk to customers is assessing how well you can predict their jobs. And the metric that I use with the startups I work with to know when have we done enough customer discovery, it's when you can accurately predict the jobs, pains, and gains of a given customer segment. So if you've just spoken to 5 customers from one segment, urban dwellers with no car, and you know exactly as the product manager or the founder what their jobs, pains, and gains are, then your job is done for now. You have enough information to move on. So you've got your jobs, you stack rank them. You've got your pains. You then need to order your pains in the most severe pains to the least severe. And you order your gains in the most severe to the least severe. This is where your customer segmentation gets really interesting, because the type of customer segmentation I really advocate for is driven by jobs to be done. So we don't segment just on demographics or psychographics. We segment based on what jobs is the customer trying to get done and their priorities. So, for example, everyone might need to get from A to B, but it could be that for some people, feeling safe is the second biggest priority. And if you can identify that and acquire those users as a specific customer segment and show them an experience for them, that can be a very powerful way of unlocking growth within a customer segment. This works in B2C. It also works in B2B. We saw this a lot at CloudMade, where overall, each of the customers in the buying cycle, the user, the decision maker, the economic buyer, they more or less wanted the same things, but their priorities were totally different. And so the messaging and the product, the part of the product they saw needed to be different depending if they were an engineer or an economic buyer. So a way of segmenting your customers is to look at what the value proposition canvas looks like for each different group of the customers. All of this spaghetti all over the place is actually quite useful. It is a bit of a mess. I've not found yet a better way of doing it. What we're doing is we're making sure that each gain and each pain is attached to a job. Because what we do not want to be doing is giving users gains that don't attach to their jobs. So and we've all done this. This is features that test well in user testing and test well in discovery, and then we launch them and no one uses them. That's because, yes, they're appealing, but for our customer segment, it's just not a job they're trying to get done, or it's a very low priority job. And it's the same for pains. The way to avoid petty annoyances and building features that just address people's petty annoyances is to make sure we're dealing with the most severe pains that attach to the most critical jobs. So for me, I'm a very visual thinker. I found this type of layout works really well to help me and the product teams that I work with understand, really get our heads around the problem. So by all means, look at my video on YouTube, look at that board. Going to take you really quickly through the square, the value map. We're not going to do another brainstorm on this, but I'm going to try and give you a quick download on it in the next 5 minutes or so. So the value map, once you've got your customer profile, the circle in place. So once you are able to recruit customers from your target segment for customer discovery, which is a problem in and of itself, getting enough users to talk to, once you can recruit them, and once you can accurately predict their jobs, pains, and gains, then you're ready to move on to the square. The square is where we have pain relievers and gain creators. So the pain reliever and the gain creator, these are descriptions of exactly how your product or service alleviates the pain or boosts the gain. So we are looking to deliver features to our customers that reduce or completely eliminate the pain points and boost their gains. So if you go back to our Uber example, right? what we're trying to do here is say, well, if public transportation in my city is slow and public transportation doesn't go where I want it to, why can't I get a cab from anywhere to anywhere? If arriving at my destination is really important, could I have GPS tracked cabs with end-to-end sat navigation so the drivers just cannot get lost anymore? And remember, that used to be a thing, right? If payments are a problem, if not having cash is a problem, then having an electronics payment system attached to my credit card, that seems like a good solution to that problem. So once you can line up all of these parts, this is an amazingly effective way early on in your product of starting to generate feature ideas. Because these pain relievers or gain creators often translate to feature ideas. And we've not written any code and we've just spent an hour doing this, right? And in one of the workshops I'm doing next week, I have quite an in-depth example from Sustainably, a seed stage startup that I've been working with for the last few months, who after generating their pain relievers and gain creators, they spent a few hours creating a few illustrations of what that could be. And then they took about 20 potential customers through an exercise, asking them to rate how useful each of the gain creators and pain relievers would be for them. So they're getting really interesting and very consistent feedback of people saying, this is what we want, this is what we don't want. You can make the exercise even better by going to different segments. So you can start to run tests, the same type of tests that you will eventually run in your app on your own. Before you've spent a single pound on engineering, before you've built anything, you can start to get really interesting data from people. And you can tie that data clearly back to the jobs to be done, the pains and the gains of the customer. The final thing you do is define your new product and service. And often this is where we start off, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to build an app and it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And the platform is going to be this and we're going to use AWS. It's the last thing to do. And you can really do so much really powerful validation at the circle and at this part of the square, at the pain reliever and gain creator, before you get anywhere close to making any technology decisions and spending any money in that area. And by the way, this is not something that exclusively is done at the very beginning before you raise money or before you launch the first product. This whole process is something you can run in parallel with the development sprints you're doing. So when you have a product that's flying and a product team that knows what they're doing, you can still be running these same processes so that you don't deliver features into production that nobody wants, that buttons that no one clicks on, stuff that nobody buys. So very quickly putting it all together. What we've run through very quickly today was the value prop canvas. I'm obviously a passionate advocate of it. What I then go through there's a more in-depth workshop that I do on this, which is happening next week. What we do from the value prop canvas is then there's a neat formula for creating a value proposition summary from this. Once you have your summary in this format, you can share that with your team. You can also run validation tests using ads very easily. This format translates nicely to buy LinkedIn or Google or Facebook or Instagram ads. And then what we do is we generate our interview questions. So once you have this thesis of saying, well, these are our jobs, these are the pains, these are the gains, and we have a nice summary of the value props so we can communicate with our team, we then go through and say, well, what are the sort of questions we need to ask people to unlock those jobs? What are the questions that are going to lead to pains and gains? So we work through in the process of about 4 hours is all it takes in this workshop. We get these 3 things, and then you're absolutely ready to go out and start talking to customers and validating your value prop canvas. As well as we do a deep dive of how you can do some validation on the square as well. And this is something that works really well, like I said, for brand new products, but also fits amazingly well inside existing product teams. The next steps after that are defining OKRs to get this ready for delivery, talking to customers, and then iterating on the value proposition. So this is how the whole thing turns into an iterative cycle. So basically, part 1A is what I just talked about. Part 2 is all about value experiments, so how you create experiments to test this value. So this is happening next week, May the 5th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a 4-hour deep dive workshop. This is some of the people who took part in the last one. Had people from startups, people from the Royal Opera House digital team, which is pretty wild, like thinking about how to make opera more accessible to everybody via digital interfaces, which is pretty awesome value prop. Email me, email Lila, who you may have been on an email thread with if you're interested in this. We have a few places remaining for that workshop, so it'd be awesome to see some of you there. It's a lot of fun. We finished about on time. I've got a call starting directly at 1. We maybe have room for 1 or 2 questions, which feel free to unmute and just shout out if you have any questions at this point. We had 25 participants until 2 minutes ago, so pretty good retention rate. Cool. Whilst we're doing that, please do leave me feedback. I really would like to hear what you thought, honestly, for this workshop. So please do that.
URL didn't work. If you go to the previous page, workshops.nickblack.us.
Yeah, no, I've made a mistake with that. URL is not going to work. If you click on the link, which you can't click on, let me just copy and paste it. I'm going to send you an email with a link that actually works. So if you go to my website, nickblack.us, and click on workshops, that works. This link doesn't. We live and we learn. Cool. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It has been very good to have all of you guys here. I hope you got some value out of this. I really love talking about this stuff because I'm very passionate about it. Love to see any of you there next Wednesday for the workshop we got. Please do let me know how it goes if you're trying this out with your teams. I would love to hear from you. And I'll shoot you an email in this afternoon with some follow-ups items as well. Thank you, everybody. Really good afternoon.
Bye-bye.